Wendell Berry. A master of the written word, he rarely appears on television. For one thing, when he's not writing, he's farming, and that can keep a fella busy from sunrise to sunset. But we met recently, and after considerable persuasion, he said, "Okay, bring your cameras with you."
We don't have a right to ask whether we're going to succeed or not. The only question we have a right to ask is, what's the right thing to do? What does this earth require of us if we want to continue to live on it?
This quiet and modest man, who lives and works far from the center of power on a farm in Kentucky where his family has lived for 200 years, has become an outspoken, even angry advocate for a revolution.
A warning to my readers: do not think me gentle, because I speak in praise of gentleness, or elegant, because I honor the grace that keeps this world. I am a man crude as any, gross of speech, intolerant, stubborn, angry, full of fits and furies. That I may have spoken well at times is not natural. A wonder is what it is.
Berry rarely gives television interviews, but recently, here at St. Catharine College near Louisville, he agreed to sit down with me to read some of his work and talk about his passions.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Bill.
It was a special occasion. From far and wide, friends and followers of Berry gathered in the Louisville area to celebrate the 35th anniversary of his landmark work, The Unsettling of America. It's one of more than 40 books in Berry's prolific career: poems, essays, novels, short stories. The two-day conference, addressing what it will take to resettle America, brought together advocates of sustainable agriculture, environmentalists, leaders in the local food movement, and others who recognize Wendell Berry as a visionary.
He's, you might say, a prophet of responsibility.
It was just a year ago, on Earth Day, you said people who own the world outright for profit will have to be stopped by influence, by power, by us. And some of us who have read you and followed you took that as an indication that maybe the mad farmer is getting a little madder, a little more radical.
Well, I have grown more radical the older I've become. I don't remember saying that, but it sounds like me.
Which is why I could have made it up, but I didn't.
Well, when you say you have to stop somebody, in our time, you can stop them by violence, but they do have to be stopped. The contrariness of the mad farmer. I am done with apologies. If contrariness is my inheritance and destiny, so be it. If it is my mission to go in at exits and come out at entrances, so be it. I have planted by the stars in defiance of the experts, and tilled somewhat by incantation and by singing, and reaped as I knew by luck and heaven's favor, in spite of the best advice.
He is one of, if not the great writer at work in American letters right now. He's built this body of work that's coherent, cohesive, powerful, beautiful, quite amazing. And it also happens that it's about the most important subject that we have, whether or not we're going to be able to build the kind of communities that can successfully inhabit this earth or not.
As he nears 80 years of age, Berry is going beyond words to civil disobedience.
Keep up the good fight, y'all.
In 2011, he joined a 4-day sit-in at the Kentucky governor's office to protest the mountaintop removal of coal. What prompted that? A man your age.
Well, good company. What prompted me was the thought that when you have a major problem in your state, to which state government is utterly indifferent, and you've taken every obvious and legitimate recourse, trying to meet and talk and influence and demonstrate and speak and write, and nothing had worked.
Why is that? Why do we concede to organizations like the coal companies such monolithic control over resources that should be the people's?
Because in our society, people with money are bigger and more powerful and more noticeable and count more as citizens than people without much money. And so we did confront the governor and tell him we weren't going to leave. We're here to make...
Did you have a conversation with the governor about why you were there and what you hoped would happen?
The state government of Kentucky is not set up for dialogue or discourse on difficult problems. I live on the Kentucky River. I know that it's got stuff in it that nobody is talking about. The world and our life in it are conditional gifts. We have the world to live in and the use of it to live from on the condition that we will take good care of it. And to take good care of it, we have to know it, and we have to know how to take care of it. And to know it and to be willing to take care of it, we have to love it. And we've ignored all that all these years.
You wrote quite recently that the two great aims of industrialization, replacement of people by technology and the concentration of wealth in the hands of a small plutocracy, seem, in your words, close to fulfillment. What do you think, from your life's experience, might stall the momentum and perhaps even reverse it?
I don't know. There are two or three things that we haven't been able to confront or even acknowledge politically. One is that the aim of the Industrial Revolution from year one has been to replace people with technology. So it's a little contemptible to hear these people express in surprise at this late date that we have an employment problem. The disaster of being governed by the corporations, mission of stature and visibility will finally say, we can't have this any longer. We're here in Washington or Frankfurt to represent the people, not to be employed or bought by the corporations and to serve them.
Are corporations which have been given person rights under the First Amendment, are they acting humanly even though they possess?
Well, of course not. They can't act human. You can't have a bunch of people combining into a person. That's not physically possible. They're in trouble on two fronts, the corporations. One is the people like these who are working against them, so to speak, from the inside. And then because their premises are wrong, creation is working against them from the outside. I've been talking for a long time about leadership from the bottom, and I'm convinced perfectly that it's happening. And that leadership consists of people who simply see something that needs to be done, and they start doing it.
Well, I'm wondering if putting your faith in the people is a wise investment.
I'm not putting my faith in the people, I'm putting my faith in some of the people.
Which ones?
The ones who are committed, these people. The country, and I think Vandana could tell you, the world is full of people now who are doing what I just said, seeing something that needs to be done and starting to do it without the government's permission or official advice or expert advice or applying for grants or anything else. They just start doing it.
One of the reasons that his realization and his writing was so powerful was that it stemmed directly from his life and what he was doing.
I've been extraordinarily fortunate in my life. I've lived in a place I've loved. I've been a friend and ally with my brother all these years. Lived with a woman I've loved. Love. That comes under the heading of faith. A lot of my writing, I think, has been, when it hadn't been in defense of precious things, has been a giving of thanks for precious things.
What are the precious things that you think are endangered now?
It's mighty hard right now to think of anything that's precious that isn't in danger. But maybe that's an advantage. The poet William Butler Yeats said somewhere, "Things reveal themselves passing away." And it may be that the danger that we've now inflicted upon every precious thing reveals the preciousness of it and shows us our duty, some of us.
When did you know you were free?
You're free when you realize that you're willing to go to the length that's necessary. The world is maintained every day by the same force that created it. It's an article of my faith and belief that all creatures live by breathing God's breath and participating in His Spirit. And this means that the whole thing's holy, the whole shooting match. There are no sacred and unsacred places. There are only sacred and desecrated places. So finally, I see those gouges in the surface mind country as desecrations, as blasphemy.
That's as powerful an indictment of the consequences of runaway capitalism as I've ever read. And surely, if that's happening, as we know it is, it takes more than reverence, and it takes more than words to try to reverse it. What do you say to those people who say, "Wendell, please tell me what I can do"?
All right. Well, you've put me in the place I'm always winding up in. The answers will come not from walking up to your farm and saying, "This is what I want, this is what I expect from you." You walk up and you say, "What do you need?" And you commit yourself to say, "All right, I'm not going to do any extensive damage here until I know what it is that you're asking of me." And this can't be hurried. This is the dreadful situation that young people are in. And I think of them and I say, well, the situation you're in now is a situation that's going to call for a lot of patience. And to be patient in an emergency is a terrible trial. I say to the young people, the important thing to do is to learn all you can about where you are. And if you're going to work there, it becomes even more important to learn everything you can about that place, to make common cause with that place, and resigning yourself, becoming patient enough to work with it over a long time. And then what you do is increase the possibility that you'll make a good example. And what we're looking for in this is good examples.
When you and I were born in 1934, there were almost 7 million family farms in this country. There are now roughly around 2 million family farms, and most of us are further away from the foundations of nature than we've ever been.
The fact that we know the history of people having to leave the country because they couldn't make a living there is the history of rural America. But that they left because they couldn't make a living is an indictment of our land policies. The idea that you have to go somewhere else, that you have to leave a fertile country in order to make a living is preposterous. And it's a result of the wrong idea of what we mean by making a living in the first place. To make a living is not to make a killing, it's to have enough. In my work, especially in the essays, I've always been trying to construct, to lay out, map out the grounds of a legitimate, authentic hope. And if you can find one good example, then you've got the grounds for hope. If you can change yourself, if you can make certain requirements of yourself that you're then able to fulfill, you have a reason for hope. I was willing to be run over. It's dangerous to do acts of civil disobedience. I think once you've crossed that line, well, something's settled.
You've got to be contrary.
Well, you've got to be contrary, but there's a world of pleasure in contrariness.